When I was a kid, one of my favorite shows to watch was the Donnie and Marie Osmond show. And I loved it. It was on Friday nights. Our whole family watched it. And Donnie and Marie, every once in a great while, they would switch places. So Donnie was rock and roll and Marie was country. So I love when Marie got a little bit rock and roll because everything changed up. So if you are expecting to see someone else and hear a different voice, well, we're doing a little bit of country and a little bit of rock and roll. So if you're in, stick around. We're going to have a great show. I have come up with some coaching questions for
Mhm.
a former basketball player who, as I look at the stats, they weren't so bad. Field goal percentage, 55.3%. How did you do that?
A lot of concentration, but
Uh-huh.
first, setting the goal. I set the goal that year that I wanted to be number one in the state of field goal
Uh-huh.
percentage, and I think I hit it a couple of times. So, yeah, you set the goal, you make the intention, and then once you set the goal, as we know, Jen, your mind starts to work on how do I make this happen? And
Yeah.
that's what I did. Yeah. Oh my
Wow.
goodness, I can't believe you brought up the basketball. Good
Uh-huh.
memories.
Yeah, I thought, gosh, I know a little bit about ball. Do I need to check with my husband to see if these are good stats? And I thought, oh no, I played basketball some. Those are great stats.
Thank you. It was a lot of work, but a
So
lot of
that
fun.
that was back in the day.
Yeah.
Will you share a little bit about what you find fascinating right now in what you do?
Oh my goodness. The one thing, Jen, that I find fascinating is the people that I get to meet and talk with and interact with. And I also find it fascinating that I'm so fascinated with that. So it's two part. One is because people are so different. God created us to be so different. There is not a single person on the earth that is the same. And we ought to celebrate that, right? I have this thing that drives one of my friends bonkers. I don't believe in saying the word weird when it comes to people because in my mindset, if we're all created uniquely, then there's not a norm. So I can't be weird if there was never a mold that was created for everybody and then I was creating a different one. No, every single one of you, every single one of us were created in a unique, special mold just for us. So there's not a normal to compare, so we can't be weird. And so it's fun to meet people about and talk sometimes about the same topics
Uh-huh.
and get completely different thought processes, mindsets toward it, approaches, all of that. And then I'm fascinated, Jen, with the fact that I'm fascinated with that because you could sit me in my house for 7 days and not talk to anybody, I'd be fine. But yet,
Oh,
like
oh,
I can hang out with me. You
I,
couldn't. You couldn't.
no, no. I mean, I can. Clearly, I'm everywhere I go, but I want to bring some people into the party. Now, I heard you just say something. So basically, what you said is that the expression "you have broken the mold" is not appropriate because there is no mold. Very interesting. I like it. Okay,
Yeah.
so when you're not fascinated, what do you do? What's your business? And what do you want people to know the most about who you are?
Ah, the most I want people to know about me is something I would want people to know from my actions, not my words. But the number one thing is that I love Jesus Christ and he is
Mm.
my King and Savior. That's the number one thing because then that should and does cause me to act and treat people in a certain way. The other thing I want people to know is that I love to speak. Now, I don't love to talk, but I love
Hmm.
to speak. And I
What are we doing
love
right?
to.
Wait a minute. What are we doing right now? Are we
So I would
talking?
say this is speaking. I wouldn't say it's talking.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Huh. I
Hmm.
would say it's talking.
Okay, so I
No,
want to know your definition, and then I'll give you mine. So why would you say it's talking?
I will answer that after you complete answering the question that I asked you as far as introducing yourself. Like we've been a few minutes in here now, so let everybody know where they really are. That this is not the Jen Rogers show. There is no Jen Rogers show. There is time to simplify. So take it from the top.
Got it. So I am Kanisha Hart. I am the host of the Coach Up podcast. I am a speaker. I speak about how we forge through fear. And I also am the Accountability Club host, where I help you to actually achieve the goals that you've been procrastinating, not achieving for a long time through the power of accountability partners. And you're on the extension of the Coach Up podcast platform on my YouTube channel, The Connection Collaborator. So that's who I am. That's what I do.
I think that's talking. You and I are just having a conversation. So I would define talking as words coming out of your mouth with, well, I guess there are two prongs. They could be without purpose and they could be with purpose. And I consider this a very purposeful, intentional conversation. I'm having a blast hanging out with you. And just, I mean, every time I meet you, it goes up level. I really like that woman.
Right? Likewise, Jen. I return that compliment. It's a good synergy, right?
Yeah.
And those are always a blessing from the Lord to meet people
Mhm.
as such. So I'm grateful for you. I would say this is speaking for me, and this is how I separate the two.
Okay.
One, in my head, speaking it's similar to what you mentioned, purpose and intention. And there is a message that I want to convey. So I think when I do a podcast, there's a message that I want to make sure that there's conveyed. Versus for me with talking, while there are multiple messages that get conveyed, I consider talking more relaxed, more informal. So I guess I would say, maybe to simplify it, speaking for me is the more formal, the business aspect of when I'm conversing or presenting. Whereas
Okay.
talking for me is the casual, off camera, off audio. We're just shooting the breeze, maybe talking about politics, maybe talking about Jesus, maybe talking about my cat. Who knows? But those would be the difference. That would be the difference for me.
All right. Fascinating. So to be clear, this you're defining this as speaking, and yet I would still stick with talking because you have no idea what I'm going to ask you. You have absolutely no idea because we've switched stages here. And this is a very brave thing that you've done. What compelled you to dive in? What had you finally pulling the trigger to say, I'm doing these videos, 30 videos in 30 days? What happened?
So the really transparent answer is I feel like God put me on a timeline. And I won't go into a whole lot of detail about that, but I feel like the Lord gave me a timeline of I've told you to do some things and you have not done them in the expediency with which you should have. And so I'm giving you a timeline. So part of this process, this kickoff of the YouTube channel, is part of getting some things done that have been on the plate for a while, and I'm one of those people. I don't know about you, Jen, but I am one of those unfortunate last minute people. Like I'm not going to be on time. Excuse me. I'm not going to be early to anything.
Ah,
If we're supposed to be there at 4 o'clock, I am getting out of the car at 4 o'clock and 7 seconds and walking to wherever, and I'm on time in my head. So this was should have been done. I said I was going to move and not move, but add the podcast to YouTube a year ago, Jen. It is
okay.
September. We are past
Mhm.
a year. So when the Lord said, get stuff done, I said, I need to do something big, a momentum to make sure I stay with this. I don't fall off. And 30 videos in 30 days committing to it. Yeah, you have to put in some effort. And so it's been good. It's been good.
Yeah. What is one or two things that rise to the top when you think about what you've learned about yourself in this process?
Such good questions, Jen. One is I do have to get more comfortable sharing, speaking,
Mm.
talking to you guys. And so, Jen, thank you because you're helping me with that process in this exact process. Guys, you all are hearing Jen host me on my platform for that exact purpose. Like that was the whole point, is because when you all listen to the podcast, or if you're new and going to listen to the podcast, I am a host who interviews people. I have very few solo episodes, whereas Jen, you're a pro at this, right? Like you have in your previous podcasts solo
I
episodes,
have
no
a few,
problem.
yeah.
But yes,
Yes,
Yeah,
I do.
right?
I have a
And
few.
so
Yes,
for
I have learned to
me, I
laugh at my
said,
own jokes, just to be clear, because it's lonely. Podcasting by yourself is lonely, so this is a treat.
thank you. You know. So I said, in order for me to get through that loneliness that happens when you're just talking to a
Mhm.
camera, we know that you guys are listening. We love you for it, but we're still
Yeah.
looking at a camera. Is I said, I need help to better relay my messages and to make sure that I'm not being long winded unnecessarily.
Mhm.
And having somebody such as you ask me questions, interrupt when I'm going 17 minutes in an answer, helped me to learn that I need to learn to distill the information in a way that is effective, yet tells a great story, is memorable, um, but also time conscious. And so that's one thing that I'm learning through this process is how to deliver better information so that it's great information, but you all actually want to hear it.
And how do you think you're doing right now? How would you rate yourself? What would you say?
Jen, I am a hard on myself person.
Okay.
So I would say a 3 out of 10, which is not very good.
Oh my word. If we were in a Zoom room right now, the whole chat would be exploding with "That's ridiculous." That is such an understatement. No, 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 no. No, I
It's just a
completely
no.
reject that. Yeah, no. No, no, no.
Okay, I need to do a different number. Okay.
Well, I would encourage you to take that back to the laboratory, reprocess it, and let's see what you got.
Okay, fair enough. Can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure. I may not answer it, but you can ask it.
How do you, fair enough, fair enough. How do you determine if your presentations and your solo conversations are good or that you're getting better? How do you gauge it?
Oh yeah, it's a great question, and I believe we need to have measurement. So just like you could say, "Hey, my free throw percentage was the top," that means that you can look at what other people are capable of creating and say, "Okay, there's some sort of barometer there for me to say, okay," and then I consider what do I like? What do I enjoy when I sit down and I watch something? What do I enjoy? Or what do I like to read? Those kind of things. So I get information from a bunch of different places. And like you, I set goals and I have measurable, okay, when I get here, I know it's really good. So for example, if I had come on today and if I didn't take the time to think about what kind of questions could I ask her that she wouldn't be expecting? Because the canned classic tell me your story where everybody says their story, the same thing, and there's no emotion because you've told it so many times. People can tell that you're not there. So I know I can measure, did I show up prepared? And that's either a yes or a no. And I can definitely say, yes, I'm prepared. So that's one measurement tool. And then, it really depends on when I set my goals. For example, I ask the question, how frequently have I done this? Is this brand spanking new to me? Because if it's new, then I need to understand that a 10 for me in new is not attainable. Not right now, but if I can show up, that's a 1. I can show up. That's how it starts. And then I can compare to prior experiences to say, okay, what do I know? What went well and what do I want to work on? So for me, I suppose it's always a moving target. When I look back at videos that I did a couple years ago, or I listen to, I have all my episodes up there. It is an act of humility to have the first 50 or so out there because I didn't have a coach. I was doing it on my own. I didn't have a business purpose for my show. I didn't have a plan. And we know that scripture says without a plan, the people perish. And I perished. Let me tell you, talk about crash and burn and perishing because I didn't have a plan. So I know that when I look back at those, I can say, gosh, I've learned a ton and celebrate the mini victories. So I think it depends. It's situationally dependent. I can say that how you're showing up today, it's so engaging and it's a lot of fun. And I'd give you a 10 out of 10. Your speech is eloquent, you're thoughtful in your responses. You know what you're about, and you're also
Mm.
conscious of the time. You've mentioned that, and you're being brave right now because you have no idea what I'm going to ask you. I'd say that's a 10.
Thank you. You are
You're
kind.
welcome.
It makes it easier when you have great hosts who ask great
Uh,
questions and remind you when you didn't answer the question that they asked. That, Jen, is a skill of a great hostess. Y'all take note. Okay.
Take notes. Thanks for that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Would it be okay with you if we revisited you setting that goal for being number one in free throws?
Yeah.
Um, okay, cool. Thanks. So, what else did you need besides the goal to help you achieve the goal?
You mentioned it. And as I was talking and I finished up that answer, another thought came to my mind is coaching. So when I achieved that goal, I did not have good coaching present, but I was coming from a background of a coach who's amazing. And I'm so blessed because the last time I was home to visit my parents, my coach still lives in the area. And praise the Lord, I was actually able to go and spend some time with him. And we'll get to do so again.
Nice.
But it was the coaching of a couple of things. One, he always had higher expectations for me, I think, than I did. And I think that's so valuable in a coach. And usually you find that more in a mentor, but your coaches can definitely hold that space
Uh-huh.
that someone sees more in you than you do yourself. And because we value that person and we naturally, as people, want to please, I think it's part of our personalities. And there's a healthy way to be that way. We want to aspire to bring joy and delight to that person, in addition to the fact that they already have joy and delight in us. And
Mhm.
so his expectation and wanting to reflect well on what he had poured into me, I think was part of what drove me um, to achieving and working to achieve that goal. And then what he poured into me as his player from a coaching standpoint, he always pushed all of us. But
Mhm.
he was, Jen, when I tell you this man is encouraging and gruff as a bear, he will tell you off in a heartbeat, in
Mhm.
truth,
Mhm.
and then make sure that before you leave the court or before you leave the gym, he's hugged on you and said, I love you. And it's not the I love you placating. It is. He's still the
Yeah.
same way today. You know he
Yeah.
loves you. And that type of knowing that somebody has that care for you, it really can take people to a new height. And that's why coaching is so important and so valuable in every
Yeah.
aspect of our lives. So
Yeah.
that's what I think also pushed me to that goal.
That brings to mind that as entrepreneurs, sometimes when we tell our families of what we're doing, they don't get it. I'm curious to know how your team responded to your desire to set a goal that was going to crush them.
I think the wonderful thing about team sports done well, and that starts with the coach, but it does have to do with the players and how they support one another. Is my teammates never, to my knowledge, never looked at it as something that would crush them. They looked at it as if Kanisha is hitting 50, 55% in field goal percentage, we get her the ball because she helps to facilitate us to win, and we all win, right? And so it means that one, our plays work. So when my point guard is coming down, that they know they can run a couple of plays and likely you get me the ball, I'm going to make the shot. Great. That means we didn't make a wasted trip and waste our energy and our breath and our lung capacity to go down the
Oh,
court for no reason. Who hates doing that in any basketball game? Number two, right? Somebody had to pass me the ball. I was a center in basketball, so I did not dribble the ball down the court. I didn't create my own shots. I depended on my teammates to get the ball to me. So somebody gets an assist. That's a stat for somebody to make
uh,
that goal. So it was a win-win for all of us. And I think to your point in bringing up entrepreneurs, that's what the important of community, right? We start businesses either on our own or with a partner maybe, But it's so important to have a community of people who you can reach out to, whether it's a coach or it's accountability partners, or it's just people who are working, who are building their own business that you get to interact with and you can celebrate and support each other in their wins. Like Jen you're so amazing for helping me with my momentum challenge in September. You're part of my community to help me win. And also y'all get to see how amazing Jen is. You all are going to hear how to connect and contact with her, right? And so it's a win-win for both of us. And that's important in building a business, as well as if you're at the point where you're adding team members, make it a win-win for your team members who are part of your business to win as you win. And then everybody wins. So it doesn't end up being a competition. It's the collaboration, which is my whole platform, the connection collaboration space. Collaboration and connection is what we celebrate, and it's what makes us all better. So yeah, it was win for everybody.
I love it. I love it. So in the times that we've met where you've popped on the other side of the Hollywood Square, you've had such presence. And then after I did a little snooping around to say, let me find out more about Kenesha. What can I learn about her? I realized, oh, dang, how tall is she? How tall are you? Part of how you show up well is you've got to be tall. You were center, you played well. So how tall are you?
I am 6 feet.
6 feet. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
But you seem tall as well, Jen, because usually when we meet, you're standing. How tall are you?
I always got in trouble at school for not sitting at my desk. Always, because sitting is so boring to me. I need to stand. So I'm 5'7", so you will tower over me. And that's all right. That's all right. We stand in our own feet and inches.
But because you do stand, it does also present a presence that comes across. So maybe a tip for us.
There you go. That's a great tip. Okay, I am watching the clock, so our time is winding down here. Okay. Thanks for sharing all that. You're doing great. 10.
No,
10.
Thank you. Again, I have great help.
Think of a time you expected a certain thing to happen in your coaching business that flipped your expectations. How would you describe what happened?
I'll give you a good one. So for you guys, I am not coaching now. For all my coaches, I love y'all. I praise God for y'all. I also praise the Lord that I don't coach right now. But I do have, my coaching experience comes from my corporate background. As the Coach Up podcast host, I just have the fun privilege of talking to coaches and facilitating y'all strategies for y'all to help you build the 6 figures. But my coaching experience, the thing that I remember, Jen, and I love this memory. As a coach, we bring a lot to the table, but our clients are really who it's all about, right? And when you can start to see the impact that you've had on your clients in a positive way reflected back to you, I think it's so great. And so, Jen, people would have described me in the coaching world in corporate America as a bit hard, maybe slightly tough, not very bendable, and very high expectations. All probably true. At the same time, after you worked with me for a while, like your first 2 months, you'd be like, I want to switch teams. I don't want to work with her anymore. She's horrible. But if you were stuck with me and you didn't get a chance to leave, eventually most of my team came to love me. And so we have this situation where, because I have high expectations of people, and I believe that when you set high expectations for yourself and for people rise to the bar. So often we don't reach our potential because we just don't set the bar high enough. So I set the bar high for my team in this particular category that was measured, as you talked about earlier, making sure that you can measure something to know whether you're improving. And the company measured us in this particular metric. And my team always performed really well. We were always number one in our company site. So there were multiple sites in the company, but in our site, we were always number one. And we had a contest where this particular metric was being tracked and rewarded. Big rewards, like big prizes, all this good stuff. My team won. Jen, I didn't do anything different. I told my team, we're not competing. We're just going to continue to perform at the level as which we should perform. And we
Yeah.
won.
Uh-huh.
What I loved, and so to answer your question about how it turned upside down, is most people would see my coaching style, like I said, is hard, it's too many high standards, what have you. And lots of complaints about that for people who are not on my team. When we went into the reward session of the award session for winning this metric that we didn't try to win, we just won because we always perform.
Uh-huh.
One of the presenters of the prizes said to the team, he said, so the entire team was there, and he said, what did you all do differently to make this, to earn this award, to win? And one of my team members said, we didn't do anything differently. Kanisha has taught us that you do your job and you do it to the best that you can and to the higher expectation. And that's what we did. So that's what we want. And so the reason I use that as an example is because sometimes what we are doing, people may say, like you ask about, family and that type of thing. When we're starting a business, people may think, oh my goodness, you're crazy, or the ideas that you have, what are you doing? You decide what is going on with you. This is not going to work. They may be discouraging. And it's because from their perspective, how they would do things, that it doesn't match what you're doing. But I say that as an encouragement because how I was doing things, most people would have said, and did say, this is not good, she's not. But my team, once they understood how it worked, and I encouraged them as well as was hard on them, they then recognized that they perform at a level of excellence because they were excellent. And it showed up on the back end because we won.
Yeah, that's so good. Thank you for sharing that. All right, we have 1 minute left. I'm going to invite you to choose 3 words to describe where you are right now, whatever that means to you. 3 words to describe where you are right now.
Humbled, determined, and optimistic.
Love it. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. I am quite pleased and I'm just filled with joy. I'm delighted. That's the word. I am delighted to do this little swap with you and cheer you on in your 30-day sprint. Congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Thank you. Jen, before we run, can you please tell people who you are and what you do and how people can connect with you? Because you have done an amazing job as the host today. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you're looking for a host, I could help you host, I suppose. Uh, I help startup Christian entrepreneurs leverage all their resources, especially podcasting. I have a deep affection for a microphone. And so if you're interested in launching a show or wanting to be a guest on a show, I definitely can help. But I'll help you leverage all your resources, podcasting or not, so you can stop running around with your hair on fire and have time for the people, places, and play that matter the most to you. So you can find me at coachjenrogers.com. No D. If I had a D, I'd be married to a very famous football player. I am not. So ROGERS, coachjenrogers.com.
Love it. Thank you again for helping
Yeah,
me with this challenge, Jen. This has been great.
so good.